I would like a penny for every time a student asks me to help them write their CV, which is usually the day before they've got to submit it for a job application. It happens so often, I can tell you. Now, if we prepare our students well in advance and tell them to always keep their CV on their computer or wherever they can access it and keep it up to date, we can help them with a few handy tips for the current style of how CVs should be written. Now, there are so many ways that you can actually write a CV, but there are a few tips to give them which have to be included in every CV. At the top of the CV, there's what we call a profile. It's very short, only about 3 or 4 lines long. And what this is what the interviewer or the people selecting in HR, for example, will be reading first. They want to see that the applicant has got the skills that they're looking for. They're going to have a lot of applications, and this is what they're going to be analysing. And if they've got a lot of CVs to get through, it needs to be very precise and very clear. So it'll have to be adapted to every job the student applies for. And it's very important to tell them that you don't have a generic CV. Every time you submit a CV, it has to be different and adapted for that particular job. So the profile might talk about a particular skill that's needed, such as maybe trust or being a team leader, driving something. That's what you need to include in that profile. Also for the profile, if you think about what I talked about before with the 3 A's, your aim, get that job, your audience, HR or your future boss or management, and the attention, I've really got to grab attention there by having some great examples. But again, remember, it's only 3 or 4 lines and you've got to get that message across very, very carefully. Now for the rest of the CV, it'll include those skills that they're looking for with short examples under your work experience. And don't forget, it has to be in reverse chronological order, starting with the most recent now and then working your way back, and then qualifications and other relevant skills. There are lots of examples of CVs that you can find online, and I think that it's the profile at the top that's probably the most important that they have to look at. But the rest of the layout usually is quite generic. Now, if we think about the covering letter, this is definitely something that has to be written every time you apply for a different job. And it's very important that students realise it's not just a letter that talks about showing an interest in the job. They have to give relevant examples showing the skills that the people, or the management or HR, are looking for that position. So it may be that you have to show that you are an independent worker, that you can work on your own, but also that you are a team player as well, that you can work alongside other people and interact with them and get the job done. Now, those are 2 points that are very relevant to most jobs. But also, you have to give examples which are measurable. That's really something that is important when applying and writing your covering letter. So if I'm a salesperson applying for a job, I'm going to give examples of how I grew sales. But I'm not just going to say, I grew sales and I got more customers. I'm going to actually give measurable examples. So my sales increased by 25% and I increased my client database by 35%. Clear examples that the person reading my covering letter can see. But I also need to give other examples in that covering letter which are relevant to the skills they're looking for. Now, when you've sent your covering letter, the person selecting the candidates is going to have read that, and they're going to use that to refer back to in the interview. So you've got some great examples that you know that you're going to be asked about in the interview that you can prepare for and talk about in more depth. Now, in Company and Business 2.0, you'll find some more examples of covering letters and interviews.